So I don't really know what this video is for or who this video is for. I think I'm also making it so I can rewatch it at a later date. But if there's anyone else watching this, I hope you get a little bit of value from this. So to give you some context, I run a digital marketing agency. I used to work with medical spas. I've recently switched into the remodeling industry and getting that off the ground at the moment. So I just finished a call with a sales coach of mine on setting some goals. And I wanted to talk a little bit about stress and the weight of responsibility. Because I think for a long time I've been avoiding responsibility in the business. So haven't really been setting clear KPIs to my team, haven't really been managing my team properly. I've sort of been coasting in a position of comfort. And to give you some context, last month we did just under $30,000 US. This month, probably going to be a little bit lower. But then in the next 1 to 2 months, I'm forecasting that we'll be doing about 40 to 50,000. Um, so yeah, I think a big part of where I've been lacking is not actually really showing up for the business as much. Like I've just been coasting in a place of comfort. Now, I just set the goal with him that in the next 2 years, I want to be doing $1 million a month in profit. So the whole notion of the call was around setting impossible goals, goals that seem so big and so crazy that they almost scare you. They do scare you. And part of the process was initially setting the goal. So for me, it was setting the goal of $1 million a month. And then from there, it's sort of going through and asking yourself a couple of questions like, what do I need? So I can actually, let me pull up the questions. I've got my laptop here. I'll pull them up and sort of go through them. This is a fantastic process to go through, by the way. I'll quickly share what I did with it, but then I want to speak a little bit on, I guess, the stress that's coming with it afterwards. I think this is more just for me to unload and get some shit off of my chest because, like, yeah, I've got some tightness in my chest. I'm feeling super stressed after this call. But first, we went through and I set 4 goals that I see as being impossible, like really hard to do. So, um, one of those goals for me was $1 million a month USD in profit. And then what you do is you set those 4 goals, you set a timeline of when you want them to be achieved in. You can't go longer than 3 years because if it's longer than 3 years, your brain doesn't activate in the same way to achieve that goal. So for me, again, I'm going to focus on this one goal. It was $1 million a month USD in profit. I said I want to be there within the next 2 years. Now, for context, at the moment, as I said last month, I did about $30,000. Of that, running at about 60% ish profit margins. So, around $18,000 in profit last month. So I have to increase that by a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot to be able to get there in 2 years. So it was, yeah, daunting thought. I mean, assuming I'm doing 70% margins because I'm accounting for the fact that it should be easy to have higher margins with AI. That's my assumption. Um, I need to be doing around 1.45 million a month USD at 70% margins to hit that goal. So from there, I figured out what my goal was. I figured out what the timeline was, and then you just go through and ask yourself a few questions. One of was, it would be impossible for me to make $1 million USD a month, or it would be impossible for me to go in the next timeline. So for me, it'd be a million to make. It'd be impossible to make a million USD a month in profit in the next 24 months, unless, and it's really important that you include the unless and you capitalize that. And this is where the stress sort of came into it for me because it pointed out to me a lot of glaring gaps of where I'm not showing up at the moment for myself and for the business. And it can be really confronting when you see that stuff sort of shoved in your face. And I think for me, for a long time, I've not been properly managing my team. I've not been setting clear KPIs. I've not been holding them accountable. I've not been holding myself accountable. I've had a blatant lack of leadership, right? Self leadership and leadership for my team as well. I think I have been coasting in a sense of, there's absolutely more I could be doing to close clients. Yeah, it's really confronting to figure out. Um, and I think there's decisions I know I need to make which scare me, such as decisions to hire more people to actually get stuff off of my plate so I can focus on the more high ROI stuff. Um, Decisions such as, actually building out systems to fix or negate constraints that I currently have in my process. Even things such as simple as like doubling my ad spend. Because for me, which I've done that after this call. So I was spending 150 US a day on ads. I'm now spending 300 a day on ads, which puts my total outgoings at around 25,000 New Zealand dollars a month, which for me is fucking terrifying. Like ever since I increased that, I've felt this tightness in my chest just from like stress and almost like a panic. Because for me to know that before I pay myself, before I, because, and sometimes there's other costs in there as well, I'm spending 24,000 New Zealand dollars a month is a crazy thought. It's a really crazy thought. And now I need to know that now I know I have to cut back on a lot of shit. Like I can probably go and cut out a couple of thousand from there just by um, cutting back on some subscriptions, some coaching, some maybe even some team. But yeah, it's a really weird spot to be in to know that I'm putting out essentially, 50% of an annual salary every month just in expenses. Um, and it's terrifying to know that I need to make $25,000 a month just to cover my bases, because that's around, I think, I don't even know, 18,000 USD. Okay, so it's about 15,000 I need to make. That's just to cover my bases, right? Um, which is a crazy thought. So I think the good thing for me is now I realize like I need to be very tactical with how I'm spending my money. I was very loose with throwing it out on all different sorts of coaching programs. Like for context, in the last financial year, I spent over 100,000 New Zealand dollars on coaching programs and consulting. And I think a lot of that was it was done without intent. Like I was throwing money at these things thinking that it would, I don't know, help me improve the business. But the glaring thing I was avoiding, which I've been confronted with this now, is that yeah, I was throwing all this money at consulting, but that doesn't mean they're actually going to take action on what's there. And I think a big issue with what I do is I throw money at all these different things, almost as a way of getting like a dopamine hit of I'm investing back into the business. But a big part of it is realizing that the investment doesn't come from the money, right? That the investment isn't made in the money necessarily. Like yes, there's obviously a cost to it, but the investment is made when you actually follow up and you put the action in behind it. Um, and maybe I'm just starting to waffle now, but I think it's helpful for me to get the stuff off my chest. Again, like I don't give a fuck if anyone's watching this or not. I might not even ever watch this back again, but I think it's helpful for me just to get this shit off my chest. Um, but yeah, I think a big lesson for me from this, which if anyone's watching this, I hope you use this as a takeaway, is think about what your goals are. And it's going to seem so obvious saying this, but like really take some time tonight. Think about what your goals are. Think about a goal that scares you, whether this be personally or with your business or professionally or whatever it may be. Think about a goal that really scares you. Maybe it's, a certain revenue figure you want to hit in your business, or maybe it is you want to go and do an Ironman or something like that. Think about a goal that scares you, and then just spend some time sitting there and ruminating on what you need to do and who you need to become in order to be able to achieve that. Right. And sometimes a helpful way to think of it as well could be to start with the inverse. This is a popular way that Charlie Munger thinks is you start by saying what you need to not do in order to hit that. Now, I didn't do that personally. The question I asked myself again, and this is one I'd highly recommend you do, is a statement of it would be impossible to make, or it would be impossible to achieve my goal in the time frame I have set, unless, right? I think it is incredibly helpful to ruminate on a goal that scares you and what the type, who you need to be as a person to actually achieve that goal, right? And then from there, like you're able to identify what the end goal looks like. From there, you can sort of chunk it down to smaller goals. Um, again, for me, a big thing I did was I went through and figured out. what were the things I need to do to actually achieve that goal. And then from there, I set two North Stars. Those are my two things that I'm focusing on the short term to make this happen immediately. So for me, one of those was doubling my ad spend, which as soon as I set that goal, I hopped into my ad account, I doubled my ad spend. I'm fucking terrified again, but like that's beside the point. It's figuring out like what are the things that you can do now to get you towards that goal. And then it's also a case of like, yes, you figured out what you need to do. It's also a case of raising your standards in a sense and realizing like, hey, to achieve this goal, you need to operate at this level. Currently, you're operating here. To get from here to here, what are the things that you not only have to do, but what are the things that you have to say no to in order to do that? So, my mentor who I was working with on this, he gave the example of he had to stop saying yes to new one-to-one clients. And for me, I put down that I have to stop saying yes to MedSpa clients. Like I can't have any more MedSpa clients coming on, even though, I know I've got a pretty good product built out for them. I know I can charge a decent amount. I'm charging them about $2,500 a month at a base. Um, I can't say no. I can't say yes to them anymore. Like I have to say no to them. I have to be laser focused on getting my cost per qualified call in KPI and having that at below $200 ideally, making sure my close rate is in check, making sure my show rate is in check, all sorts of things. But basically, just signing on more remodelers and then getting them good results, and scaling that. Like that has to be my pure focus is getting more remodeling clients and getting the systems built out to get them killer results. Because I know that the med spa vehicle and the clients I've got there isn't going to be something that can get me to $1 million a month. I know that the remodeling side of things easily can be. I just need to sign a lot of clients with it, essentially. Um, but yeah, I know. I guess final takeaway is like sitting, if you're sitting here watching this, I'm sure you can think of things that scare you right now that you know you need to be doing in order to achieve your goals. And like I know how it's so easy to sit here on the other side of the camera and say, oh, like do the thing that scares you. It's hard to do it. And if I hadn't gone through that process with my mentor, there's no way I would have even thought about any of this stuff or done any of this stuff. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get a preachy ending here, but like have a goal. It's okay to be scared to have that goal. Expect to be scared along the way. Expect to make a lot of decisions that scare you. Um, expect it to be hard. Particularly if you want to do big things in life, you got to make big, tough decisions, decisions that scare you. And like that fear never really goes away. It just appears in different forms in different ways. So like, for me, initially, like I had a big fear around putting any money into ad spend because like, oh fuck, like I just don't have the money for that. And then you start putting money into that, and then it comes to, increasing your ad spend from $50 a day to $100 a day. And it's like, oh fuck, like I don't have the money for that. Like, what if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't come through? And then yeah, there's always new levels of things that are going to scare you. It doesn't really go away. I'm a big believer in like what happens over time is you just raise your baseline for tolerance, like what you can tolerate in terms of stress, what actually it takes to stress you. Like I can tell you now, me where I am now versus when I first started my agency 2.5 years ago, like my tolerance for stress is completely different. Originally I would have been terrified hopping onto any sales call. I remember my first sales call. I was mumbling and yeah, it was awful. Um, but yeah, like your tolerance for what you can actually, I guess, tolerate in terms of stress or fear or emotion, it increases. And then it just takes bigger things to bring that fear back, but it always does come back. That's what I found. So, long video. I think I just needed to sort of get some shit off my chest. I'm feeling a lot less stressed now. I've got some shit to do. I need to get some client stuff done. I need to make some money because otherwise I'm gonna go fucking broke. Um, I think what's really stressful about this is that I'm traveling at the moment. So I'm currently in Montpellier in France. I'm going to be in Europe for the next 2-ish months. And like it's not cheap to live and travel. Like I've spent $3,000 on my Airbnb that I'm in for the next 2 weeks. I spent over $1,000 on flights in the past couple of days. Um, yeah, so it's given me a lot to think about in terms of like what I need to be doing personally as well to make sure that I'm able to hit my goals. And part of that is maybe looking at my expenses and maybe get a bit of a shittier place next time, um, or stay somewhere cheaper. I don't know, but yeah, scary shit. I'm fucking terrified. I'm stressed, but that's okay. I know that the decision like this is going to be the thing that requires me to step up and start operating at that next level. And sometimes you can't wait for the change to happen. You sort of have to grab it by the balls and make it happen. So I'm hoping that's what happens. Basically from here, either it crashes and burns and I have to cut a whole bunch of shit, or it all works out okay. It would be nice if I had a bit more of a buffer of cash flow to work with, but I think what's my account looking like? I think I've got $18,000 New Zealand in savings right now for the business, which is a lot less than I'd normally have. Normally, I try and have 3 months of operating expenses, which I don't have right now. So I need to get that up fast. So I really need to cut back on some costs. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Now I'm going to go and do some stuff to try and get some more money coming in. I'm going to try and cut some costs, and fingers crossed the business is still running in a couple of months. If you don't see any other videos, then chances are I've shut this down and nothing's working anymore, and I'm not making any more money, and I've kind of got a 9 to 5, whatever. Um, but yeah, do the shit that scares you. That's where the growth comes from. Okay. That is all I have to say. Peace.